How's it going, option sharks? This is your option coach here, and today I'm creating this video to talk a little bit about margins, about options margins, and how margins work in your brokerage account, and how the advantages of it for option traders. So number one, I'd like to cover some misconceptions about options. A lot of people believe that margins is dangerous, it's more risky, and there's the interest involved. But hey, that's not a big deal, okay? If you are able to leverage OPM, or what we like to say, other people's money or the bank's money, to help you generate more money, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? The wealthy, they all do that. Rich and wealthy people, they borrow the bank's money, they get a low interest rate of 2-3%, then they put it into an investment or another investment vehicle that pays them 10%. So they never have to use their own money to generate income. All right. So in this same case, margins apply the same thing. Now, how does margins work for option traders? So margins, you can apply that with any brokerage, and then therefore the brokerage will give you will pretty much match what your portfolio size is. So let's say you start with 20K, you get additional, you activate margins, then now you have 40K to play with and 40K to trade with. So how is margins beneficial? It's beneficial because you can use margins to trade options and not be subject to margin interest. All right. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that when you are trading option contracts on margin, you're not subject to the margin interest. The only time you are due to subject to margin interest is if you're using margins to own the underlying stock, the underlying equity. So let's give you an example. Let's say you do option contract, you do a cash secure put, right? This is the part of the wheel strategy, cash secure put. And you get assigned on your put, you get assigned on the shares. If you get assigned on the shares on margin, now you are subject to margin interest, right? Because you're using margins to own the shares. But if you are using margins to open options contract, you do not need to pay margin interest. It is interest free. So the fact that if you're not using margins to open contracts, then you are at a disadvantage. All right. So you want to be able, especially if you are at a stage where you're trying to scale and grow your portfolio, or if you have a smaller portfolio. So you want to get all the help that you can possibly get. So in this example is that you do an options trade, you trade options on margin. You're not subject to margin interest only if the stocks, if you get assigned the shares and the shares are being held on margin. All right, so I hope that makes sense. I also include in this video, in the second half of a coaching call that I did, that shares with you the concept of it and how my coaching client was able to understand how margins work. All right, so other than that, I wish you all the best and happy trading out there, option sharks.
Is it taken out of margin already, or is it taken out of my individual cash first?
It doesn't matter which way it takes, because when you trade options, you don't pay margin interest on it. That's why the advantage of activating margins on options is because you can use margins to trade options without paying interest. The only time you pay interest on margins is if you get assigned and you're using margins to own the positions. So if your positions that you own are on margin, you're paying margin interest. If you're using margins to open contracts or options, you don't pay interest.
Gotcha. Okay, that was my confusion, because I thought I was paying 6 point something percent.
No, so option traders, another advantage of options is that you don't pay interest for using margins. You only pay interest when your margins is used to own your position. And then you accrue interest charge. But to do contracts, nothing, because you're just selling contracts. You don't own the positions. You understand? You just perform a leverage.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Cool. So that's it. Let's just wait till what happens.